Hey everyone, this is Sabrina. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for sticking with me as my videos are kind of more sporadic and not exactly on a schedule. Life is so busy. But I finally have my December update for my reading journal to share with you, and I read a total of 12 books, which was pretty good. I did not read nearly as many holiday romance books as I wanted to, or holiday books in general. Some of them took a really long time to get to the library, and then there was just a few that I really wanted to read for the romance challenge, and then that made that difficult because I couldn't find books that not only met the challenge but were also holiday. So that was tricky, and maybe I should have just said, I'm done with the romance challenge, let's just completely switch to holiday, if that makes sense. So that's why some of my books were romance, but not necessarily holiday, which is kind of unfortunate. But anyways, I got them all glued down. My shelf is complete. The year of books is done. I needed to color in the added shelves for the My Shelfie, and I realized that I ran out of books. Like after I finished filming this, I thought to myself as I was writing out the books, I don't think I wrote out every single book I read in December. So I may come back and add a shelf or something. I haven't decided, but if I do add a shelf, you guys will see that in the final walkthrough video. So I started off the month with a terrible book. Okay, it's not terrible, but it was the book called Songbirds and Snakes, and it's about basically Cornelius Snow, which to me is one of the biggest villains in the Hunger Games. And the book just went on, and I was reading it in hopes of like seeing the movie, and I don't know why, you guys, I did not put two and two together that is what this book is about. So it just took me forever to read the book, and in the end, I didn't really enjoy it, and I didn't really want to see the movie. So that's another reason that December just started off kind of bumpy, because I started with that particular book. I then moved on to a graphic novel series, Lore and Olympus, that I'm loving. Then I read my first holiday book called Holiday Romance. For the Goodreads challenge, I filled in all the boxes and then added another box. I think it's just I added one box that was 4 and then half of another box and just colored them in green, and then I will go ahead and stamp them. When I fill in a box of 4, I stamp with the large December, and when it's just a half box, I do the smaller font of December. But I love how it turned out. It's very colorful. You can absolutely tell which books go with which months, and it just turned out great. If you guys remember from my setup video way a long time ago, I wanted to do a game board style for this page, and it kind of just took on a life of its own because I realized that I couldn't really do like a winding game board since I needed so many spaces and they had to be close together. So that just made it a little tricky. All I added to these 2 pages was filling in a box for the graphic novel, and then I just moved on. I didn't finish the A through Z. I think I didn't get E, Q, and X, which is totally understandable. I could have done X's and O's, which is a romance book I listened to. I could have added that one, but I didn't. I also stopped on the United States challenge. I stopped around September, so that was pretty good. I did 9 months, so that's awesome, and I'm going to call that challenge a win. And for this year, the United States is kind of like pick your book, read your book, and then fill in the territory. So it's more, not territory, state. And so just fill in the section that you do and then move on, which is really great. So it's go at your own pace. Now for this last romance challenge, I read, I think it was 5 books. So the top one was Holiday Romance, that's up in the top row. And then book that has multiple colors is If Only You, the Bergman, I think I'm saying the last name right, Brothers series, but this one was about one of the sisters, and it's one of my all-time favorite series. I absolutely love it, and so I read that book. I think there's one more book in the series, so it's really good. And then another book I read was about a widow, and that was The Last Goodbye. So obviously that wasn't a holly jolly type of romance, but I still enjoyed it. And then I read the under 200 pages, The Grump Who Stole Christmas. That was a quick read and just really fun. It's nice to read quick books at the end of the year, or graphic novels at the end of the year, you know, feel good books. Basically, whatever your favorite genre is, that's the genre I think we should all read at the end of the year, and just finish out the year with happy books that we love. Don't try to do a book where, you know, it's going to take forever, like Songbirds did for me. It took forever. And I was just mad at myself that I did not figure out that Cornelius Snow was the main character. So yeah, it was a very, very long book. For the romance challenge, I just used a heart stamp and tried to do the rating as best as I could, and that'll wrap up this whole entire challenge, and I loved it. This year, the lady is not doing the romance challenge, but I'm still gonna add the book covers for every romance that I read, and then that way I can see all the different romances that I read throughout the year. All right, 12 friends, or 12 books, 12 friends. I absolutely love this challenge. It was fantastic, and I love the books that all my friends chose for this year. And I needed to circle one last one, or not circle, but outline and shade one more book, They Never Learn. I think I read that in November, and I rated it at 4.5 stars. I think I forgot to color in more, or maybe I did 3.75. I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm moving on to the calendar, and as you can see, I just gave a thumbs up because I forgot to hit record. But basically, all I was doing was making my calendar, and I'm going to use this really fantastic new stamp set from Syncopation Designs called Page Turner. I love it. It has phrases in it like read more, love to read, live to read, I still read children's book, a little cat on a shelf with books, reading is my happy place, and so many awesome phrases. I'm going to definitely link it down below. It's just so good. I love it. And I think I mentioned this in my behind the scenes video, but I am definitely going with not the traditional holiday colors. I didn't want to do red and green because I didn't read a lot of holiday, and also a lot of my book covers lent themselves to more of the blue, green, wintry colors. So that is what I am going with, and I'm actually excited with how the color scheme came out. It looks very wintry. So down in the bottom left corner, my pattern, or what I have stuck to all year long, is a stamp, the total number of books, and then another stamp, and a little bit of embellishment to add to it. I also really enjoy putting washi tape down at the bottom, so I did a light blue star washi tape, which I love. And then I love to do the month over on the right hand side with some stamp sentiments below or around it. And then if the month starts like on a Friday or even a Thursday, I can add some stamping up at the top, which is where I figured is a perfect place for the cat. And I just love it. I love all of Jennifer's stamps. They're so good. Very versatile and just have perfect phrases. So I am going to place some die cut stars. These are not from Jennifer's shop. They're from, I think, a digital stamp set from Ali Edwards. And I just changed the colors to the colors that I wanted for this particular project. And then I die cut them on my Cameo. And I'm just going to sprinkle them all around to really add to the color scheme. I also did decide to add some colors to the stamp, so I'm going to get out my markers and figure out which ones will match perfectly with the various stamped sentiments. So loving how this is coming together. I do have to say that as I was putting this calendar together, this has probably never happened to me, friends. Never. And you've got to let me know in the comment section if this has ever happened to you. But I noticed there was about 4 or 5 day gap in my physical book reading. I know reading in December was hard, but I don't think I took 4 days off of reading. I don't think I did. But whatever book I read, I did not keep track of it on Goodreads or on my phone. I didn't even take a picture, nothing. So there is a gap starting on the 11th through the 14th, which is just crazy to me. I don't even know how that happened, but I didn't record anything there. I was listening to an audio, but there is no record of me reading a physical book, which is very interesting. So I got to note to myself that I don't do that again, because I don't want to do that again. I enjoy keeping track of my books, but apparently December was just so busy, I forgot to add whatever book I read, unless I didn't read a book, which would be interesting to note as well. So I'm having fun filling in all the different stamped sentiments for the Love to Read, Live to Read. I did a light blue because that made the most sense, so that way I could still see the stamped sentiment behind. But the book on the inside, you can see I'm going to do that in a darker color. So I'm just going to continue to fill in the various stamps with all the different colors that I have, including all the books, and just have so much fun coloring in these stamps. I just enjoy it. And currently what I am reading is The Last Call at the Local. It's the third book in a romance series, but this one takes place in Ireland, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm also listening to the biographies of Ronald Dahl. I think that's when I'm saying his name correctly, but it really is a very interesting biography of his life. He is currently stationed in Greece, and it is the middle of World War II, and it is just, I can't even imagine the things that he had to do in his plane. I don't know what kind of plane it was, but he was in a plane and had to battle Germans. It's just amazing. He has a very interesting life so far. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on writing out the books. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, I started on with the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and my friends, it took me all the way till the 5th to finish that book, and I think I even started it in November, so that took me a long time to finish. I did listen to an audiobook that was really good, Perfect Distraction. It was part of the romance challenge, and it was a book that that was written in 2020. So I listened to it, and it had a fun take on a romance, because they met in a hospital because he was sick. And so it's just a different take. The next audiobook that I read was called The Quiet Tenant, and that was a really interesting thriller. I didn't have a lot of time to listen to it, so it took me a lot longer to listen to, but I thoroughly enjoyed it and all the different narrators that were in the book. I went shopping one day for some Christmas presents and listened to Resting Scrooge Face, so that was fun. It's a really short audiobook, and it's just cute and quick. Again, it's fun to read what you love in December. Well, more so in December, I guess I should say, because you should always read what you love, right? That's what we should do. If we don't like something, we should just kick it to the curb. I also read, like I said, If Only You, the Bergman series, and I think the next one, the 7th one, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I think that one's coming out in April, and it's the last one, so I'm pretty excited to finish up that series. I found a book on Kindle Unlimited that was winter, Christmas, I thought, and it was called 5 Winters, and it took me such a long time to listen to that particular book. But in the end, it turned out to be an all right book. I don't know if I would recommend it, but it was okay. I finished off the year with a book that was recommended to me by my friend Jen, Mrs. Boom Reads, called A Little Magic, and she recommended it for 2024. So I'm actually going to break the rules and count A Little Magic for 2024. And, I can do that. It's my rules, right? I highlighted the physical books in a light blue, and then the audiobooks are going to be in gray. I almost missed one, I think, so I had to go back and make sure that I count each of the books and that I didn't miss any of them. Because, again, having that chunk of days where I have no book really kind of just threw me off. it's a mystery, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going to figure it out. Almost done with this page, and then I can move on to all the stats where I add in all the books. And I think I wound up printing the books a little bit smaller this month. Not intentional, but it left a great space at the bottom right-hand side to decorate and add in this pattern paper that I had changed digitally. So I'm excited to do that later on. For now, I'm going to start with the pages because I like to start from the bottom up. That way I know that I have enough room for the different sections that I want. I'm currently mapping out and figuring out how I want to do my monthly layout for this year's reading journal. I have done in the past a review for every single book, and that journal never got finished because it's just too tedious and too time consuming to do every single book, a review for every single book. And I would love to do that, but it's just, like I said, it's so hard. And for me, you guys can let me know in the comment section if you want. It's hard for me to pare down a book into one sentence. I could probably do two, but one sentence would be really hard. And I'd love to do like a little synopsis of every book that I read, but I just don't know if that's possible. So I am thinking on it and trying to figure it out. So I've got everything lined and ready to go. So now I can start doing the title. The title is going to be all the stats, and I don't think that that title is going to change for 2024. I just really love that title. I may change out the stamp set that I use instead of this Carrie Bradford one, or maybe I could potentially use a different one every month. Still thinking on that. But for now, I love this stamp set, and I always put the word stats over towards the word the, so that way I have a little bit of room to add embellishments or stamping. I don't know what was going on with the letter T, but I kept thinking it was upside down, and then I said, no, it's not upside down. I don't know what was going on, but I stamped it, and it turned out all right. So now I can go back down to the bottom and work on the page numbers. So the total pages read was 3,893. So I'd love to add in the number of pages from my audiobooks, but I don't think I figured out where that information is on Storygraph. So I'm going to hold off on adding in that and figure it out for 2024. I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks that I will have the January walkthrough for 2024, or how I put it together. For hours listened, it was 43.17. Next up is figuring out the different special categories that I will use. I know two of them, which is holiday and Goodreads number, but the third category I wasn't quite sure. But then I remembered that I had two books that I thought were just meh, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that category. It was 4 holiday books and 154 books for the whole year, which is absolutely astounding to me. I don't even know how I read that many. I do know it had a lot to do with audiobooks and rediscovering those. The meh books were 5 Winters and Songbirds. I wrote in paper, Kindle, and audio. Audio was 4, Kindle was 2, and paper was 6. So the majority of my books were physical or some print, basically, that I would read. So it was a pretty great month to wrap up the year. I wish I would have read more holiday, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and write in my different genres. As always, it's a mix of genres. So I have sports, holiday, thriller, short stories, romance, dystopia, and graphic novel. Wide range of books, and I just love that. I do want to try for 2024 getting into more nonfiction, and I really have noticed that I love memoirs. So that is why I dove into the Ronald Dahl autobiographies. They're not read by him, but I still am enjoying them and just find it so interesting to listen to this author. And like I said earlier, he's currently stationed in Greece, but I'm hoping that they get into his later years, but I'm not sure if they will. I am dividing up this pie chart into 6 categories. I like to do the main 5 categories, and then whatever is left, I will just do other. And I try to keep everything connected to the center point, or as best as I can. It doesn't always work that way, but I try my best. So I am going to wind up with 3 pretty substantial chunks for the books that I read, 2 small slivers, and then another kind of medium-sized chunk for other. But overall, the categories were super interesting this month, and I think different from anything I have ever had this whole year, because this whole year it's mostly been emotional books, which is fine. I read a lot of romance, but the big category this month was lighthearted. And of course, this is based off of Storygraph and what Storygraph thinks. I could always, label my own books and what I think the emotion is, but it's nice to have an app do the work for me, right? Next up was funny. So that's never happened before. I didn't realize that I read so many books that are considered funny, but I guess I did. And then third was emotional. So that hasn't happened at all in 2023. So emotional is either number one or number 2. So that was very interesting. And then following that is the little sliver of tense and hopeful. And lastly is the other. And of course, sticking with the blues and the greens, and it just turned out so pretty. Looks like a wintry scene that I'm creating. Whatever leftover stars I have from the calendar page, I'm going to use those later on to decorate my space. I did print out a little die cut, Oh What Fun, and I'm going to go ahead and stick that in the bottom right-hand corner. I don't usually do like large die cuts like that, but I had it matched really well, and I figured, you know what, I'm just going to add it. I'm going to go ahead and use it. Adding in, like I said, what's left of the stars, which I guess wasn't a lot. It was only 3 for the left-hand side, and then it's going to be 1 for the right-hand side. I thought I had printed more, but I guess I didn't. That's okay. Just trying to get this journal wrapped up. I always like to start by putting down the first book and then stamping the My Rating. And I know I've mentioned this before, but the My Rating stamp is a little wider than the width of the books that I print. So there needs to be a little space between the book covers. So adhering down the book and then stamping the My Rating works best. So you can see I am going to wind up with 3 rows of 4. And again, The Grump Who Stole Christmas was my short story, and that was just a fun little book to read. Same thing with Resting Scrooge Face. I listened to that. And then If Only You was fantastic. I just didn't have a lot of time to read it. I also really wanted to read Wildfire before I ran out of, the holds from my library. So I read that book, which was kind of weird for me because it was a summer book. I really am finding that I prefer seasonal reading, but I did not want to give up that book, and I really wanted to know what happened, what happens next to the characters in this series. So that's why I decided, you know what, I'm just going to read it. But it definitely felt a little silly to read summer in the middle of winter. I don't know. You guys can let me know if you are big seasonal readers, but that's where I lean to lately. So you can see I added in that pattern paper down there, and then I left a spot for my average rating of the books, which is going to be 4.13, and I just get out the Carrie Bradford stamp set so that way I can go ahead and stamp it. I also think this was my second lowest rated month out of all the months. I think there was one other month that might have been a little bit lower. So I'll add in the rating for the different books with a bright teal color. Songbirds got 3.5, I would say. Perfect Distraction, the fun romance that I listened to, got 4 stars. And then The Last Goodbye, which was the romance about a widow, that one I would put that at 4.25. And A Little Magic, that was just amazing. That's gonna definitely be a favorite book, and it got 5 stars. So I ended on a high note with that fantastic book to wrap up the year. Now I just need to add a little bit of stamping on this page. That way I can add in it feels like when I add some stamping, it adds some movement to the page. So I really want to add some. So I'm gonna add a little bit of green and blue, and that will wrap up my December reading journal. And I've had so much fun putting this together. I would love to know what you guys are reading in the comment section. I love when you share that, and I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing my pages come together, and I'm excited to show a full walkthrough for this journal coming soon. I'd love a thumbs up or a subscribe if you are new to my channel. Have a great day. Bye.